Hello, I'm Angela.
And I'm Marie, the second half of this mother and daughter team.
Welcome to Chakra Checkups.
We're here to guide you on your quest for spiritual knowledge and enlightenment.
Hello.
What does go bump in the night?
What goes bump in the night? Yeah. I love Halloween. And now that I'm living in Mexico, I'm very fascinated with Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead. They decorate graves with ofrendas or offerings to their lost loved ones so that they can come visit us. And I have a whole bunch of questions, Mom. Let's start, where do people go after death? Are ghosts real? Have you seen ghosts?
Oh, well, that's a couple of questions, but we'll take the second one first. Yes, I've seen ghosts on many occasions. All the things that you hear about houses being haunted and all of that is not actually a ghost. Those are usually demons. Now, sometimes a person can get a demon in them, and also a ghost could be a demon and look like a ghost, but it's not. It's a demon. Demons can really be very destructive and dangerous, and even in the most extreme cases, there's been cases of them killing people, but they definitely are malevolent. Most ghosts really aren't.
So, all right. Well, how can you tell the difference?
Well, behavior is a big key, but most ghosts are just like, your neighbor that died, and there's no reason for them to die and then suddenly become evil. They're pretty much the same. And when people have had a ghost kicking around and I've gone to deal with them, what I have found is that there was something that they had left incomplete or unfinished that was causing them to want to hang around. So, well, for example, there was one ghost that was in this house. It turned out it was somebody's grandfather. They had a sense that that's who it was. So I said, let's communicate with them. I was able to communicate with them, and I kept seeing fuzzy dice, pink fuzzy dice. And I said to the people, did he by any chance have an old car, or was he into car restoration? And they said, yes, actually, he did. And I said, well, now I think we're getting somewhere. I think he died before he could finish his car and put the pink fuzzy dice on the mirror in the car. Why don't we all sit down and think him up a nice, pretty pair of pink fuzzy dice hanging from his rearview mirror in his car? And we did that, and the ghost went away.
That's all he needed.
That's all he needed. He wanted that one last detail.
So most ghosts aren't harmful in any way.
No,
not
really.
They just need their pink fuzzy dice, and then they'll go into
or something like that.
Or
sometimes
something
a ghost
like that.
If your neighbor was annoying and a liar and is haunting the house, you're going to have an annoying lying ghost.
Okay, so it depends on the personality of the person.
Right.
Okay.
I had one nurse that was had called me, and she had gotten fired from her job because she kept misprescribing medication, because the Virgin Mary was telling her to give other medication to her patients.
Doesn't sound like the Virgin Mary or something that she would do.
Exactly. So I went to her house and I said, first of all, the Virgin Mary doesn't run around misprescribing medication. I just guarantee that. So I spent the night in her house, and this ghost came up to me and started saying all this weird stuff. And I said, shut up and go away. I went there with another psychic, and she had a similar thing. And then the ghost went into her bedroom, started saying a bunch of weird things. And she said, I'm going to melt you if you don't leave. Him this? I said, yes, your ghost isn't female. It isn't the Virgin Mary. It's just an annoying ghost. And we told him to leave. She said, I didn't know I could tell him to leave. Of course you could tell him to leave.
They stuck around to complete. They just more wanted to be annoying still, or
Annoying and bored, and was able to manipulate this woman into doing something that cost her her job multiple times.
wow. People that die end up sticking around and being a ghost in a house either, right?
No, not at all. If somebody has a good spiritual life and they have a good faith in spirit, they're going to go into the light. And when I look at them while they are in transition before they have died, I actually will see a big light, a big, like it looks like a big cloudy white area that they are moving towards. And when I see that, I realize this person is a very spiritual person and they are going just to transition right into the light. But when you die, God isn't just going to show up and say, now you've got to believe in me. So if someone is determined that God doesn't exist, there is no place to go, then they just go into a room or an area that's much like a Hollywood movie set that suits them.
Mm.
And then angelic beings and teachers or people like myself, I do this from time to time. I'm assigned to people, will go and say, you know, there's more than just this room, and God and spirit do exist. And usually they'll say, I'm not interested in talking to you.
Yeah. So
And
those people aren't really ghosts and they're not really passed on either, but they're kind of stuck in dimensions.
they're literally trapped by their own mind.
Mm.
They're trapped in their own mindset in a set.
That's a terrible place to be.
Well, they're usually quite satisfied. You know, they seem quite fine with where they are and don't really want to have anything to do with you. I don't know how many years. Maybe it's like the Buddhists say, maybe it takes 10,000 years to turn them around, but
Yeah.
it's just the way it is. It's free will. So you die, you have free will. If you believe there's nothing and you're just, you know, you're going to be the same person and you're going to do the exact same thing you've always done when you die, well, there you go.
I just want to watch my Netflix every night before bed, and then you just have a room to do that continuously.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And you say, well, there's something besides Netflix, and they're like, I want to watch Netflix. Go away. You know?
Right. Okay.
So, you know, very maniacal. They will wind up in an area with people or a situation with similar vibration. So they can wind up in a very unpleasant circumstance.
Mm.
And they'll stay there for as long as it takes for them to consider that maybe what they did got them there and they would like to.
Okay.
And, you know, that takes however long that takes. I went and I actually saw my own father, who was a horrible person, on the astral where he was. And it looked like an encampment for criminals. And he said, what the hell are you doing here? You certainly don't belong here.
So are ghosts usually stuck to one area or a family or a house?
I don't know for sure. When I was in high school, when I was about 14 years old, I was a sort of fanatically religious. And I got this idea. This came into my head all by myself. We lived in a very remote area and we had bought this house. We bought a tract of land in an area where they're going to build houses. We were the first one to build a house. So there were no houses around, no neighbors, nothing to do. I was fanatically religious. So I decided what I would do is in the evening to entertain myself is I would open up my Bible, light a candle, and I would invite all the lonely ghosts and spirits that wanted to hear the Bible to come and listen to me read the Bible. Now, I'm not recommending anybody do this at home. This
why shouldn't we do this at home? It sounds like a great way to potentially help these spirits move on.
Well, that was my plan. I didn't actually run this by anybody before I did this. So I was doing this for quite a while, and my room would actually fill up like bleachers. I would only see the heads because there were so many, possibly hundreds, a lot of ghosts. When I lit my candle and said, "Here we go," that was full. Just so many ghosts. At one point, my sister, who got wind of what I was doing, came in, and then she heard a door slam, and she said, "Was that one of the ghosts?" And one of them said, "We don't need to come through a door." And then they all started laughing, and it sounded like hundreds of ghosts laughing. They just thought that was so funny. But
Okay. Do you think that your sister could see them as well, or she just knew?
no, she couldn't see them, but she knew what I was
So
doing.
she couldn't hear the laughter.
No, but I could. And
Yeah. And
um,
did that make you laugh at her question?
yes. At some point, I don't know, something about it just occurred to me. Maybe this wasn't such a great idea. So I just decided to do it. So I abruptly stopped. And then I guess some of these ghosts weren't so happy about that. And we started having problems in the house. We started having things disappear. My dad's wallet would disappear. And there was a large area between our living room, the dining room, and the kitchen that was just a kind of a 12-foot area of carpeting, that there was no furniture. And then right in the center of that area, that was what I called the comeback point. Something would disappear. Everybody would look frantically for it.
But it would come back in that.
And it would come back right smack in the middle of that big empty area. And then keys were gone. And then a set of glasses. And then some other a prescription medicine that my mom needed. It just went on, and it was happening all the time, and the comeback point was always the same. It just got freakier and freakier. We had all these strange occurrences. A couple times we all left the house at the same time. We came back, and all the bottles in one of the bathrooms was turned upside down, and all the toilet paper was unrolled. We just were having a lot of poltergeist activity. So my parents decided to sell the house, and the people that bought the house, apparently, I don't know them or what happened, but the house burnt down about a year later.
And you think that's probably from calling all of these ghosts into the house?
I'm not really sure. I hope not, but I felt really kind of bad.
But we don't recommend reading the Bible to have an orchestra of ghosts in the house.
Or unwanted, unknown spirits. I don't recommend anytime calling any amount of unknown spirits or any amount of spirits in that regard. No.
Right. Because a lot of people play with Ouija boards, and the idea is to summon a spirit, or or a specific person to ask a question or talk to a loved one. But who are we really talking to with a Ouija board?
Good question. It could be anybody. It could be anybody that ever died, or anybody else. You don't know. And that's the problem. I do talk to angels, but I always say a prayer and say, I'm asking for my angel, with God's permission. If you don't set parameters, you don't have parameters. And basically, being dead does not make someone spiritual, and hearing a voice does not mean it's from God.
Right. Because there's lots of things out there that can talk.
Lots of things. And some of them have never even been alive. There's certain types of aliens out there that would love to put a voice in your ear. I had a voice saying, "You must move to Montana. You must move to Montana." Well,
not the worst idea. Montana's a beautiful state.
I said, "Hey, if you want me to move to Montana, buy me a ranch and get some good-looking cowboys on it, and let me know."
Yeah, sign me up for that.
So I just don't really recommend trying to play with anything like a Ouija board. Very, very dangerous.
Is it still dangerous if you set those parameters around of like, I would like to talk to my angels or someone specific, or the concept of the Ouija board is just too open?
That would be okay if you set really careful parameters. Although something like a Ouija board, I think it's got a certain spiritual context behind it that might not be so clean. Here's the thing about demons. If you look at a demon or you contact a demon, it now is paying attention to you.
Mm.
If you're a fairly enlightened, good quality, good person, there's no reason for any demon to be messing with you or in your house or in any way attracted to your attention. But if you go to it or see it, then it sees you, and then it's going to want to mess with you.
Mm.
So you're kind of walking a dangerous path when you start to mess around that way.
Which brings me back to, how can you tell the difference between like a ghost and a demon?
Well, demons will be maniacal, they'll be dangerous, they'll do dangerous things, and they will feel different.
What do they feel like?
Dark, dark, scary, and evil. If you
Okay.
suddenly feel like, wow, there's something really bad there, don't mess with it.
And do you ghost, like, is it, you see a lot in movies where someone walks into a room and their breath gets really cold? Is that a ghost?
No. All of the ghosts that I have been in the presence of, well, there was one ghost when I was a teenager, was at a weekly meditation and study group with a whole bunch of adults, and this woman came out of bedroom on this upper landing in a wheelchair and would wave to me, and I'd wave to her, and I didn't even realize she was a ghost. It
Okay.
wasn't until this happened about 6 or 7 different meditations every week, until she wasn't there. Then I asked the lady, how come your grandmother's not coming, or your mother's not coming out? And she said, my mother doesn't live here. And I said, well, or your grandmother? And she says, my grandmother doesn't live here. I don't know what you're talking about. And subsequently, she made a study and found out that there was a woman that had died, that was wheelchair bound, had died on the upstairs part of the house.
So
So
you don't really know, or the woman didn't really know who the woman in the wheelchair was, just someone that had died in that area.
he found out that from previous owners that someone had died there. Somebody's grandmother had died and had been wheelchair bound, and she was not aware that she had a ghost in the house.
Okay.
The woman just came out because I was there and I could see it, which is not uncommon. They come out sometimes, they want attention, so they'll come around when someone will pay attention to them.
Yeah, do you think a lot of kids end up seeing ghosts? Because I've heard stories of people with children that are like, well, they were talking to someone in the corner, but it didn't sound like their normal imaginary friend.
I'm sure they probably do. There's probably a lot of little children that have died and they didn't necessarily have any spiritual background, nor did their parents. So there probably are a lot of children that are ghosts around. And if a
Well, I don't mean children ghosts, but I mean, just regular children that are seeing ghosts
well, that's what I'm saying.
and having a conversation with them.
Yes. Oh, yeah. They could be having a conversation with a child ghost or with a person. Yes. Either one.
If there's a spirit in someone's house that's bothering them, how should they go about getting rid of that spirit?
Well, for one thing, you can smudge your whole house. That will definitely, if it's just a transient spirit, the one that wandered in and was wandering around, then usually smudging will send it away. Also, if you mentally say, you're not allowed in my house, this is my boundary, I'm setting a boundary, and I am not allowing any ghosts or spirits or demons or entities in my house, then that will take care of 90% of all your traffic.
Because demons aren't that common.
They're not that common. They're very dark, and you have to have very dark energy to even attract one or have one around.
Yeah, which is great news for most people.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not a common thing. I mean, they make a lot about it on television, but it's really not that common. It is not uncommon, though, when somebody's like opening up for them to see something or have things happen. I remember one time I was sound asleep and my legs had become uncovered, and I felt this hand on my thigh, and I thought, oh, my husband's waking me up, maybe he's feeling romantic. And I looked down, and there's just this hand with this big giant ruby ring clutching my thigh. Well, I just
Whoa.
flew out of the bed.
Yeah.
My heart was racing, and then my husband wakes up, and he just looked at me and said, "You belong in an insane asylum."
Lovely. Lovely reaction.
But
So how can someone tell the difference if they're just seeing a ghost and if they're kind of having a mental break or have schizophrenia or a different kind of mental illness? Because I think a lot of people that see things end up in mental hospitals.
well, actually, I think a tremendous amount of people in mental hospitals are not schizophrenic, but rather are just seeing things. And I
Yeah,
think any diagnosis that was based on seeing things would be very suspect. The
right.
schizophrenia really isn't based on just seeing things. There's a lot more to that diagnosis. But, they say, was the patient seeing things that are not there? I would say, is the patient seeing things that other people don't normally see?
Right.
Because clearly the things were there.
Because to some people it could be there, but I guess that's really hard to get the another person to see the same thing.
There was a little boy that I helped work. He wouldn't put his feet on the floor, and he had difficulty in his bedroom. He didn't want to be on the bedroom floor, and I just thought he had some mental illness. And what he had was, it looked like it was an entity, but it looked a lot like an alligator crawling around in his bedroom.
Mm.
So naturally he didn't want to jump down on the bed. He was afraid it was going to bite him in the foot or something. It was just scary.
Yeah, if I had an alligator that was around my floor, I wouldn't want to get off the bed.
It wasn't exactly like it, but it looked a lot like that. And there's a lot of entities. They look like everything. They make the bar scene at the Star Wars movie look really normal. There's just weird stuff out there. Well, we just went in and smudged his room really well, and then he's gone, and then he's fine, and then he's like, no problem.
Yeah.
It was all good now.
What else is out there? Are unicorns real?
I've never seen a unicorn.
Okay, how about mermaids?
I've never seen a mermaid, but there are a few things I've seen.
Okay.
You know the gargoyles that are on top of the buildings in Europe, those big ugly.
Yeah, of
Yes.
course.
Well, I have seen those on the astral, and it's interesting. On the astral, they are actually light blue and pink and green. They're like these light pastel colors. You wouldn't think of them that way, but they are. And they've got their mouths are even bigger, and their teeth are more pointy. And they fly around. And what they do is they eat up negative thought forms. So they're flying.
So gargoyles are actually kind of a good thing.
Yes, they're kind of a good thing. They kind of clean up the upper atmosphere
Oh,
around
cool.
buildings and around the top of if they're like in an auditorium, they'll fly around and they eat up all the negative thoughts.
Yeah, because I guess they're kind of put on the top of buildings as protectors and
Hmm.
stuff anyways, but they always look really creepy.
They do look creepy, and they still kind of look creepy on the astral, but in a sort of, pink and light green and pastel blue color.
Pink and pastel gargoyles. Okay, so what about dragons? Have you seen any dragons?
Yes, I have seen dragons, and as much as we talk about, like, Puff the magic dragon or these cute dragons, actually dragons, every time I've ever seen a dragon, and there might be some exceptions out there, they have been in extremely negative energy. They're not only a negative energy, they're anti-Christian energy and anti-Christ energy. And the people that I have run into, and luckily I haven't run into too many of them because I don't enjoy that, have a dragon entity attached to them. they get very heavily into antichrist symbols, inverted crosses, really dark black clothing, tattoos that are swastikas and inverted cross tattoos, and very strange stuff. When someone has a dragon entity in them, they have a very much of a hopeless, it's very hopeless, it nothing can be done, I might as well give up, I might as well just die kind of energy. So it's not a good thing. I've never seen anything good about a dragon in terms of their energy or what they're about. Although the people that have dragon energy, they'll tell you how wonderful their dragon is.
They know like what their dragon is, and they've named it as a separate entity.
Well, I'll tell you something. There's not too many people in my whole history of dealing with people that have entities with them or even demons with them that they don't know.
Okay.
I'll tell them
Because it's so dark, it's kind of hard to not like know that it's there.
Yeah, they know that even people that say they don't believe in any kind of psychic thing and they don't believe in any of that, I'll say, but you have an entity, and they say, I know, and I don't want you to do anything with it.
Okay.
They're aware. I've never run across someone that had an entity and I told them they had it and they said, you're wrong, I don't have it. They always know they have it.
Wow. And so I've had a couple experiences where I was visiting a friend in Tucson, and he took me into a bar it was a converted crematory underneath a church. So they turned that area into like an underground bar. And as soon as walking into that area, I was like, whoa, this is the darkest energy I've ever been in. I can't stay in here. I can't breathe. And another time when I was in Europe visiting one of the concentration camps, kind of same thing. I was like, there's no way I can walk into the land here. Like, what do you think I'm feeling in those kind of situations?
Well, you're probably feeling, first of all, people that are stuck there. So their soul, part of their soul, and possibly their spirit is still just stuck and stagnant there, and so they're lamenting that, and you're feeling that, but you're also probably feeling the maniacal energy that got them there.
Mm.
That would be the if someone's murdered, oftentimes the murderer is under the influence or has very dark energy or is under the influence of very dark energy, and that energy will partly go into the person that they murdered, and once they're cremated, then that energy could be just out there waiting for someone else to attach to. The energy doesn't dissipate. I think that's why we have demons, is that really dark energy doesn't necessarily dissipate unless you make a big effort to heal it. So if somebody is killed in a very dark and maniacal way, that energy will just try to find similar energy, or some person that has some similar energy to attach to.
So it kind of builds up into these creatures that can physically harm someone.
Yeah, that energy can then just become bigger, darker, and nastier energy.
Wow.
Would absolutely help. And her cat first was the first thing that got sick. Her cat started to get sick, and she thought maybe something wrong with the food or whatever. So over time, her cat started to decline. Then they suddenly decided that they didn't need her at her job. She lost her job. Then she started to get ill, and she started having problems with her vehicle. And it's just all this stuff, and it just didn't stop. The vet couldn't cure her cat, and her cat was close to death. And I got the idea, I said, let's check out your house. And we went over to this house, and it was apparent to me right away that there was something very dark there. I didn't want to go, I'd never want to go and try to determine exactly what it is, because again, I don't want to go into the energy of a demon. The fact that there's something wrong is good enough for me.
Mm-hmm.
So what we did, I said, we'll get a bunch of people over here, and we'll triple smudge this house. So first, what we did is we smudged it all with white sage everywhere, every corner, every closet, every down below sinks and everything. Smudged the whole thing with white sage. Then we cut fresh cedar branches and we batted them about on everything, on every corner and on the walls and the beds and everything, and did fresh cedar throughout the house. And then we took frying pans and you put about a tablespoon of ocean salt and some rubbing alcohol. And you have to wear a mitt so you don't burn your hand. And then you light it, makes a very hot, salty flame. And then you walk around carefully so you don't light the drapes or anything on fire. And you move this hot flame all through the house. And we did this to her house. And almost instantly, her cat got better. By the next morning, her cat was up on its feet and was eating and
Wow.
was better. In a week, she got a job offer, and within a month, she had a boyfriend again, and everything.
And then everything was good.
It was all corrected.
Wow. Okay.
So something was in that house messing with her. If you don't smudge, I think you make a big mistake in your life. You could get rid of a lot of problems if you just smudge.
Easy solution.
Easy.
So, want to know, is there any mythological creatures that you've seen that are real?
Mythological, no. I do know the dogs that they have. I believe they're called blue
With
dogs.
the three heads?
No, not that dog.
Oh,
In
okay.
China, I believe in China and Japan, I'm not sure for sure which it is, or maybe both. They have these dogs that are kind of ceramic. They have them outside the house as like guard dogs. They're ceramic dogs and they're sometimes brightly colored. They actually exist on the astral. Usually out on a porch or along a walkway. They'll have one on either side of a walkway as you're entering a house in China and in Japan, and they're brightly colored. But I've seen them on the astral, and they're even more brightly colored. And
Okay.
they a type of guard dog activity on the astral. They're very pretty and very animated, like a real happy guard dog.
Yeah, so what, they just like kind of hang out outside and guard the house?
Yes, exactly. And I think the reason people have them in ceramic there is because someone recognized that these are actual spirits that are really out there.
Interesting.
I've also seen this hooded figure, and I saw them in Brazil, a tall, dark, black hooded figure, and just standing back there and watching everything. And I mentioned to the medium that I was in visiting in Brazil, do you see that? And she'd say, yes, but do you notice that they don't come near and they're just watching? And I said, yeah, I do notice that. She said, these are just beings that stand on the edge between the darkness and the light and just observe
What do you think they're observing?
us, or the difference between the darkness and the light. They didn't seem to move much, and I've seen them several times, but they very much look like a lot of times you'll see a dark hooded being in a movie, and they look very much like that. The
Well,
long dark cloak and the hood, and you can't see the face, and they look just like that. But in reality, they just stand at the edge between where the dark starts and the light starts,
well,
and are just in the role of an observer. It was interesting being in Brazil because I would see something and I could say to someone else, do you see that? And then we'd have a discussion about that particular entity or being, instead of, no, I don't see it because it doesn't exist.
Well, and I remember you saying that when you were down there, you would see a being and they would actually pull out a card and you're like, yeah, you saw this person or this guy.
Yes, a lot of times there's some that are so commonly seen that they've made postcards of them. So I said, I saw this amazing tall black man with the blue feathers across his chest and blue feathers and green feathers around his waist, and they pulled out some postcards, that hand painted little postcards that they were printed, and said, is it this one? Or was and I'm like, that one, it's definitely that one.
Yeah. Wow.
And then they said, yes, this one, he brings the color. And I had been in an ayahuasca ceremony, and this tall, black, gorgeous black Indian had come over to me, and he had taken this pouch of feathers out and he laid it across my solar plexus around my stomach. And all of a sudden, everything looked like paisley design everywhere. It was like, whoa, this is. And the lady that was showing me the postcard said, he brings the color. And I said, yeah, you could say that. She said, he also really likes it if you smoke pot.
What? What?
I said, well, I don't smoke pot, so I guess you'll be disappointed with me. But in Brazil, that's how they are with all these things, because they've been seeing them since they were children, and they've made drawings and pictures and paintings, and so they're very nonchalant about it, and they've learned a lot about the characteristics of all these different spiritual beings that are roaming around.
And what else is roaming around out there?
Well, there's a tremendous amount.
Is there anything that sticks out that's a story that you would like to share?
Well, a lot of times there's little objects in the astral. I'm sure they have some purpose or reason to be there, or maybe they don't. And if you're meditating a lot, like I am, or your dreams are very, very fluid, like mine are, they kind of slip through, and then you're suddenly seeing these things. I've had this all my life. Sometimes it's been ridiculous, the amount of things that I'm seeing constantly running back and forth. Recently, I've had one. It's about the big as a plum, and it's just the hottest candy apple red you can imagine. Looks like a whole bunch of tentacles on one side and the vivid green on the other side, and it moves very fast, almost like a spider. Um, and it's got white sparkles coming off of it as it moves, and it's got
Wow.
energy that when it first comes, I'm usually asleep, but I'm aware of it. So I wake up, and then I still see it as it moves across the room and up my wall. It kind of always wow, what is that? Or it takes me
Yeah.
a few minutes to adjust to seeing that thing going across my room. And
So it's kind of like a spider, but not exactly.
not exactly. I mean, just it moves like a spider would move. How they skirt this way, then skirt that way, and first it's going horizontal, and then it's going vertical, and it doesn't seem like a bad thing. It's just that anything that's
It was just there in
Like,
your room, waking you up in the middle of the night.
sleep, it's kind of unnerving,
Right.
although pretty. There's a lot out there. Just very recently, I was doing a reading, and there was a ghost inside a woman's body. She's alive. The woman's alive, and this ghost is a little girl who is in this woman's body. Now, this is about the seventh time I've seen this in my history of doing readings. Sometimes people are so out of their body, and if you're out of your body, it's a lot like if you had a nice house and you just leave the lights on and all the doors open.
Yeah, come on in.
Come on in. And sometimes, and usually you'll attract things that are similar to your energy. So if you have dark energy and you're out of your body, you could actually have a bad entity come in. If you're nice energy, it might be nice. In this case, this was I started to do this reading, and it was a nice, happy energy, but definitely not this woman's. And then I took a little closer look, and I realized this is a ghost of a little girl. The bad thing about that is that every time I've seen a ghost, actually, they they move in and they move out of the person's body. It gives the person a lot of body pain. Uh,
Mm.
it's like they have fibromyalgia. They just hurt everywhere, and they go to the doctor a lot, and they can't figure out why they are hurting all over, because it's just very unnatural to have a spirit hanging out half the time in your body and half the time out and jumping in and out.
And untestable by the medical equipment that we have.
Exactly. They'll just tell you there's nothing wrong with you, or probably they'll think you're just there for pain pills or something like that. But um and really, to stop that, you just have to set a boundary and say, you're no longer allowed in my body, and I'm going to be in my body.
Yeah.
There's a lot of advantages to being in, having your soul in your body. I always tell people you're better to be in the room with the person you're having sex with. Better to be there.
Right.
It's just you have to get used to it. People think it's more fun to be out of body, and that's crazy. It's not. But
It's
they
easier. It's easier to be out of body.
It is. It's sometimes tougher, and you feel more, and it's more intense, especially if you're somewhat psychic. It's more intense, but it's not good for your immune system, and it's not good for your psychic immune system to be out. I did a reading years ago for a gentleman that was a postman, and he said, "Oh, I'm so out of body. I get in my truck and I don't even know where I am until I arrive in Crescent City." With
Mm-hmm.
a 3-hour drive,
So he's just autopiloting
autopilot.
3 hours in the car.
I'm like, well, thank you for telling me. I'll never drive that drive in the morning. It's really, really dangerous. And he was very ill. He was very ill and in a lot of pain.
Right.
So not useful at all to do that. It's very bad for you.
Because being out of body kind of takes away your internal engine that runs your whole immune system.
Right. It makes you very, very vulnerable for things to come in. And it could bring in some very dark energy. The part that went out when that bad thing happened.
And how does someone do that?
The best way is to sit in meditation and say, I feel this way now. When's an earlier time I felt it, and go back and back on the timeline, and then say, if there's part of my soul back here when the car wrecked or when I was attacked by this person, I now want to bring my soul back to the present so we can heal. Think of it like your younger twin, and you're just going to grab that younger twin of yours with
or your inner child.
your inner child, and hug them to you with all your might, and breathe and bring them back to the present, and breathe them into your heart. When you do that, if you do it properly, you'll literally feel the impact of your soul returning. And almost immediately, I did that with a big issue I was trying to solve. And when I did it, I had my pain level drop by 75% almost immediately.
Wow.
And it's never gone back. It was a permanent, almost instantaneous healing pain drop.
Wow.
So I know it works, and I know you can do it, but it's not something you can go lie on a table and have someone do to you, because it was something that was done to you that caused it.
So you have to do the healing yourself.
You've got to do it from your heart yourself.
Mm-hmm.
A woman that had Down syndrome come into my body during a ayahuasca ceremony. And 1 minute I was me, and the next minute I was this Downs person with this funny little hand, and then I was me, and then I was her, then I was me, then I was her. It was very freaky, and I went in the back room, and this guardian came back to see if I was okay. And she had an angelic being that would come into her body to help her to heal. So one minute she was her, then she was the angel, then she was her. And then another lady came in and said, "Can I help?" And I said, "No, it's crowded enough in here. Go away." And then I thought, wait, I said, I thought to myself, this is happening for a reason. I just need to calm down and chill out and figure this out. So then I said to this girl that was going into my body, I said, "What is it you want? What is it you need?" And she said to me so clearly that she said, "I'm dying. And when I died before, I had done bad things. And I think that's why I'm downs in this life." She says, "I want you to help me to transition in a way that that doesn't happen again."
Oh, okay.
And I said, "That I can do for you."
But you got to get out of my body.
Right. Well, but as soon as I said that, she went out of my body. I knew who this person was. So I actually went to her family and told them what I saw. And I bought her a little gold cross and a chain. And I took it to her and I said, I would like to help you. Would you like that? And she said, "This is what I've been wanting more than anything." She was so happy.
Mm.
Made this altar in her room. And I gave her the cross. And when she died, we had her whole family and myself and her all holding hands together and all praying together and transitioned. We were breathing in unison with her till she took her very last breath. And one of her sisters said to me, she said, "Marie, if you don't do anything else in your lifetime, your life was worth it because of this."
Yeah, just helping one person.
From her point of view, it was that important to them. But I
Yeah.
think
Well, I guess you didn't just help one person, you helped the whole family.
well, it was important for them. You know, their sister had always been a challenge for all of them. So
Mm-hmm.
happy to see that part of it go so smoothly.
Yeah.
One time I went into the Bordeaux, in the Buddhist, they talk about the Bordeaux and you see those pictures of all the spirits. And it is like that. It's like spirit soup. You're just in so many spirits so close, and there's no actual sense of personal space. And they were coming so close to me. And it got, I don't know how I got in there, but it was very overwhelming. And then I thought, whoa, this is not something I'm enjoying very much. And some things have just one eye or one arm or tentacles or everything you can imagine, and lots of things I could not imagine. Um, and then I thought, what can I do? And I thought, well, I'll just start thinking of light. And it was like rising out of muddy water. As I started to think of light and thinking about God, everything just got thinner. There was less and less of them, and pretty soon there were none of them. And I was just like rising into blue light, where there were a lot less entities and a lot less beings of any type, and brought myself out of it.
Yeah, because what is the Bordeaux?
Well, the Buddhists mention it. They say that sometimes people die and they go there and they're so freaked out that they reincarnate right away, which I can kind of see. It's an area where in the astral that has a tremendous amount of beings, entities, ghosts, everything, just everything, and many things that are undescribable. Not hideous per se, but just so weird and strange that, it's overwhelming.
Is that what like some people would describe as hell, or do you think it was similar to that or different?
It's very possible that some people might describe that as hell. It's hard to know, but it definitely was not a comfortable situation. It didn't seem really, really, really dark. I would think hell would be very, very dark if there is such a place. I think there are places that are super dark because they're super dark people, and those are probably what has been described as hell. The Bordeaux is a little bit more neutral.
Okay.
It's just like, oh, I don't know, like someone said, well, here's another entity, throw them in there. I don't know.
It's the closet that you fill with the junk. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of it. There's all these people and they're all making thought forms, and where do those thought forms go? They go there. There's a lot more that I don't know than that I do know.
All right. Well, I guess on that note, happy
Happy
Halloween.
Halloween.
Ooh.
Dress up as an angel.
Ooh.
Ooh.